this whatever this track, it's called Lost Bites by this guy Harris Heller from this Stream Beats thing. This song has got me in my feels right now. Like, this whole playlist has just got this, like, I don't know, this, like, I wouldn't even want to listen. I would listen to this like working out or something. It's that good. Hey, welcome to the roundtable, by the way. I don't know, how do you guys feel about 80s synthwave? Like, are you for it? Are you kind of like over it because of Stranger Things? What's the consensus here?
I think it works great in Stranger Things. I probably wouldn't choose to listen to it outside of that. Like, so I think contextually it works great in the show. And when we talked about season 4 about how many various types of, or various how many various emotions can be conveyed through synth music according to Stranger Things. But yeah, it's not something I would seek out or choose to listen to on my own.
Fair enough.
Listen, man, not everybody can just make K-pop. We don't all have the chords for that. We don't all have the pipes for just.
I caught your stream yesterday, Templar, and I tell you what, the range of emotion that was being displayed in your playlists was all over them. It went from K-pop to like this weird sort of like Canadian metal to like, I don't, like, there was some just regular rock in there. Like, it felt good. Canadian metal to me is like Nickelback, by the way. So just.
Oh, come on. That was a League of Legends play. That was like a Riot playlist.
Oh, was it really? That felt good. That felt real good. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Roundtable, your source for all things 80s synthwave and more. We have a couple of awesome people on the show today, starting with right below me, Templar 10. And Templar, I guess the main burning question I have for you is, let's say you got pulled up in the middle of a karaoke sing-along. What's your go-to song?
Oh, I don't sing, so that's never really an issue for me.
Okay.
I did do karaoke once and then never again. I forget what I sang for it. Probably something country, maybe something like kind of chill. I like Coulter Wall a lot, and he has some stuff that, like, vocally, I think it's not particularly. I mean, it still wouldn't sound great coming from me, but I wouldn't butcher it as badly as something more challenging. I'll say that.
Fair enough. To his right, we have now. Let's go ahead, Mark. I cut you off.
I was going to share a karaoke story real quick.
Well, we'll just wait your turn, man. Wait your turn.
I get so excited.
Wait your turn. Okay. Yeah, under the guy who's jumping in early. Navalis, what is your go-to karaoke song? You're muted there, bro.
Yep. I don't think you're muted, Nav.
He's muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about it. Oh, hold on.
We heard him earlier.
There he is. Now you muted yourself. It says, I can read it on my screen. It says guest has muted themselves.
I think he's trying to figure out the problem.
That's okay.
Maybe just go to Mark and come
while he does that, Mark the Lift, Pastor Mark from Lux Digital Church. Okay, so what's your go-to, and then you can get to your story.
I also do not sing songs, and I don't think in my entire life I have ever done karaoke. I don't think there's been one time in my whole life that I've ever done karaoke. One of the blessings of a digital church is you never get to hear me sing, which is great. But my karaoke story was one time I met a couple of friends at a microbrewery. A couple of college buddies, and my brother was there, and then but it's really expensive at the microbrewery, and so it wasn't really the vibe for my buddies. And so I was like, well, there's this little place next door called the Crossbow Lounge, which is inside of like a ratty old bowling alley. And so we're like, well, we'll go there. And so we went there, and we were hanging out there, and it was like the type of place where the same people come every night. And it was like one of the patrons' birthdays, so that they had a cake for them. So it was like me and my brother and my two friends and everybody else. And then there was a karaoke machine, and no one was intoxicated. Like, we were all sober, but we convinced my brother to sing Fireworks by Katy Perry during this dude's birthday party at the Crossbow Lounge.
Yes.
It's not something I'll ever forget. It was absolutely fantastic, and I thought we were going to be murdered.
Did you do like sing along in that big chorus part? Just on the night, that part?
No, we made him go through the whole thing, and literally at one point we just shook our heads at him intentionally, awesome. just to level it up a little bit.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Nablus, you're back with us, and I don't think you've muted yourself. What is your
Yeah,
go-to karaoke song?
I don't know what happened. The program was not unmuting me.
It happens.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Technology.
So yeah, you gotta love it. Let's see here. For me, I would go with a kind of a classic, Bon Jovi, "Living on a Prayer."
Oh, there we go. That's a crowd
And
pleaser.
so, and I feel like that would get the crowd into it. So it's just not me singing by myself, everything. So you're like, if I hear that, I can't help but sing along. So I figure people would feel the same way.
Totally. I'm Chino Mage, by the way. I've got two. My first one is Sweet Caroline, just because everybody knows the ba ba ba, and you can. That's a crowd pleaser.
That would work.
But also, my new. It's not new. Mr. Brightside by the Killers. When my sister got married, my now brother-in-law. This is a couple years ago. For whatever reason, he had that in the DJ playlist. Dance floor was packed. I mean, there was, 100 people at this wedding. Pretty much all of them were on the dance floor. All of a sudden, Mr. Brightside came on, and it turned into a mosh pit where everybody that knew that song was singing along, from 50 and 60-year-olds who knew a little bit of the chorus there, all the way down to he was 8 at the time, my 8-year-old son, just jumping around. And then all of a sudden, the groom ends up on our shoulders, and he's crowd surfing through the dance floor. It forever turned into my all-time karaoke song at that point. In the chat, I would love to hear your karaoke songs as well. Mika, welcome. Gator Girl, welcome. I'm missing some. Zeph is here as well. Make sure also to share this stream with anybody who you think might want to talk nerd stuff with us, even karaoke songs. It would be delightful to have them pop in and listen live. We are going to turn our attention right now to the things we've been playing, watching, listening to, in nerd culture, reading, all those things that are around us right now. And we're gonna Ain't It Fun by Paramore is a good one. I have a confession before we go into all this, and I'm gonna start with Templar, but my confession is I actually really like Paramore. And I don't know, I was in metal bands, I was in thrash bands, I was that kid. And then for whatever reason, when I was growing up, I had a major crush on Hayley Williams from Paramore, and then their music kind of grew on me. So there we go. I Dreamed a Dream from Les Mis. Also good, Mika. Very, very good. Templar, we're going to start with you. What have you been playing, watching, listening to, reading, all of that stuff this week?
Sure. But I mean, speaking of thrash bands, I mean, no spoilers here, but how about that, that scene from the last episode of Stranger Things, season 4?
Yep.
I won't give anything away, but
nope.
That was maybe the most metal moment I've seen in a TV show. So hey, if you're working your way through it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Just be prepared. There is a Master of Puppets-esque scene in the back end there that feels real good.
I had such a huge grin in that whole scene. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what have I been playing? I've been playing. I guess I've only been playing really two things recently. I got the I forget what they called it, the pass for Legends of Runeterra. So I've been playing some of the Path of Champions still. I've been doing some of that, and then other than that, I've mostly been playing Hell Let Loose, which is I've talked about it a bit before, which is a World War II tactical shooter. So not arcadey, really, not like Battlefield or Call of Duty. It's more, it forces you to work together. You work in squads. You have a specific role. So I guess there's some crossover with something like Battlefield, but it's much more, it's meant to have a much more realistic vibe. 1 or 2 hits and you're down. You have to be much more careful in terms of your positioning. There's no random, crazy optical sights on all the guns that didn't exist in World War II. It tries to be much more kind of faithful to the history of that. So that's been a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying that. In terms of what I've been watching, I've been looking for series to watch. The only one I've checked out in the last couple of weeks has been I watched the Resident Evil series on Netflix. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the condolences.
Thank you for watching that for me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the bullet.
I took the bullet for that one, so we didn't, and we don't need to speak about it on the show. It's hard to compare garbage to other garbage, so it's hard to say how good it is compared to other shows we've talked about on the roundtable already. But unless you're a Resident Evil fan and you're just dying for something to watch, I would say completely avoid it unless you enjoy watching things just to kind of tear them apart. Because after the first 3 episodes, I would say that just was my only real driving reason for actually continuing to watch it, is just to kind of tear it apart as I was going through it. It was just an awful, awful show. Like Netflix really, outside of Stranger Things, they really don't seem to be able to make an original show that's any good, and I don't. It's quite unfortunate. But yeah, I would say it's a hard pass on that one. Even if you like zombie stuff, I would say it's a hard pass. I wouldn't recommend anyone watch it. It's just very poorly done all across the board. So, yeah.
Spoilers for our discussion coming up, I guess, right there.
Yeah, well, potentially. But that's about it. That's all I've been watching and playing, really.
Cool. Mark, what about you? What have you been watching, playing, listening to, reading, all that?
Yeah. So we've been honestly, it's not even nerdy, but the show we've been watching is there's a new season of Alone on Netflix right now, and Alone has just been one of my and my wife's favorite shows. It's so good, and so we've been really enjoying that. And then from like Nerd World, I've been playing the new Legends of Runeterra stuff as well. We had a really killer stream on Wednesday. And got a big raid, went for 6 hours. It was super cool and really fun. And so I've actually been enjoying that. There's a new character called Gwen in the game, and I've been playing the crap out of Gwen. And so we went all in on that. We were streaming that today too. Great time. And then the only other thing I would say is, honestly, I've just been focused really heavily on Dungeons and Dragons recently. So a buddy of mine and his friend, we're all 3 friends, have been playing a game, and they're playing they're playing like cult leaders of a cult of Vecna. And we went like all Stranger Things, and they're battling against another cult right now that worships the demon prince Demogorgon. And so we went like full out Stranger Things style. I don't really get and jive a lot with like evil campaigns in D&D, but both of these dudes do, and so it's been really fun to play the antagonist whenever they are the evil guys. And so as the antagonist, I am a lot of times like the innocent town folk or the adventuring party or whatever have. And I forced them to like go to a town while there was a corn festival going, and in order to blend in they had to wear corn husk skirts, and it was just
solid.
It was just a tremendous amount of fun. So we've been playing the heck out of that, and we've been getting ready for the Lux D&D ministry in September. So I've been shooting video for that and getting ready for the West Marches campaign. So my brain's been wired a little on D&D as of late, for sure.
Yeah, totally. By the way, welcome Sheebs, welcome Bougie. Good to see you guys. The fact that Templar now has a cat cam, I want to figure out some sort of sub mechanism for like sub for more cats. Something like that. I can bring my dogs in here too. We can have a total. Mark, you can bring your dog in. Nav, do you have pets?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mine is. Well, I don't know if you can see him.
Yeah.
See her? It's laying right there.
Yeah.
That's part of her.
I can hear my 2 on the outside of the my door right here, just like scratching. Like, Dad, I wanna come in. Nav, what have you been playing, watching, listening to, reading, etc., etc.?
All right. First, I finished reading the book Justice for Kings by Richard Swan.
Nice.
Highly recommend. Good book if you want like medieval fantasy. Lord of the Rings there's not too much magic in it really, but there's a little bit. But anyway, read the book if you like books. You like that genre. Highly recommend it. It's a really good book. Well written. And then let's see here what I've been playing. Bougie is going to get mad at me because I have not played Triangle Strategy yet.
Oh.
I am getting that back this week. So Bougie, I will start playing that. Okay, I promise. All right. But I've been playing. I went on Steam because I've always wanted to play the series. Who's ever heard of the Legend of Hero series?
Yeah, dude.
It's an RPG.
Yeah.
There's 3 different arcs. It's like.
By the way, that's the most like
world.
Generic sounding RPG name ever.
Yeah, but it's like the first series is the Trails of series. Trails of the Sky, Trails of Azure, and then Trails of Cold Steel.
Yep.
So those are the 3 arcs. The first one's the Liberal arc. The one is the Crossbell, then the Erbonia arc. Anyway, think of like the Marvel metaverse, basically. You know how like they bring all the comics together. This is like all the games intertwine with each other eventually. Like you don't have to play the other ones, but if you do, you get references to the other ones and stuff like that. You're like, oh yeah, I remember playing this, but it's not really important to the story or anything. But it brings me back. Like, I'm playing the first one that came out in 2004, I think. Trails of the Sky FC, first chapter. There's 3 in the game. You follow a brother and sister who basically are figuring out some mysteries. The best thing about this game, I'm just going to cut it short because I'm playing it right now, about 15 hours in. It's on Steam for like $20, maybe 15. Highly recommend it. It brings me back to like a classic, almost like Super Nintendo RPG, PlayStation 1 RPG is kind of like that art style. Really cool. The soundtrack, amazing. I'm gonna have to like find it because it is one of the best like video game soundtracks I have like listened to. I just like listening to the music, and it is really good. And then also this game right here reminds me a little bit of Pokemon. Not as so much you're catching anything. Okay, like just forget the whole catching Pokemon, having them battle against each other, stuff like that. The battle system is actually, when you go into battle, you actually move in spaces. So it's like a little like almost like mini Fire Emblem when you go into battle. Which is very interesting. So if you like Fire Emblem, that's how the battles are. But you go to basically, you want to be a senior bracer. That's like almost like a police, I guess, or something like that. But they help citizens and everything else. But you're a junior bracer, so you have to go to each region of your empire. There's 5 of them, and you have to do quests there. And there's like a main story quest also that you do. But if you get then you get a recommendation from each region. So if you get a recommendation from each region, you'll become a senior bracer. It kind of reminded me of, you go to each gym to face the gym leader to get the badge to move on to the next one. You're kind of like doing that. But the story is way, way better. You do have a red-haired person who is kind of like your rival. So it kind of reminded me of Pokemon. So I was like, okay, I'm digging the vibes here. So, but the story is like, there's a story. Pokemon doesn't have a story. There's a story. But it's good. Trails of the Sky.
Pokemon has what I would call the best story. Catch 'em all. Like, that's the story.
It has one story for 22 years.
Catch 'em all. Be chased around by the evil gym.
Yeah. So I'm playing that right now. I'll let you guys know how it goes. I really enjoyed the story. The soundtrack is spot on. I love it. And then, side note, I picked up my brother a PS5 yesterday. I got one.
How? Where?
The PlayStation Store.
Huh. Sweet.
And so he's been looking for one. I said, if I find one, I'll buy it for you. And I did. So he owes me money now, but
you're a nice guy. Don't let anyone fool you. You're a nice guy.
No. But he got a PS5, so he's happy about it. So I was like, I couldn't believe I got one. I was like, I can't believe I actually purchased one. They're so hard to find. But anyway, That's my week. There you go.
Awesome. I'm going to blow through mine real quick because I want to get to the main event here. I, for whatever reason, Diablo Immortal a month and change ago, really kind of ticked me off that it was bad. Just microtransaction-y. So I picked my Switch up and put the old Diablo 3 cart in there, and I've been playing Diablo 3 while I've been watching Harry Potter with my my kids. We're watching all 8 Harry Potter movies this summer at some point, just watching them in like hour-long chunks. And so I'm sitting there playing Diablo, and I am a MMO person from way back. I'm a Diablo guy from way back, like Diablo 1, Diablo 2, I played the absolute snot out of. And I almost think that Diablo on console, like Diablo with analog sticks, is better to have to click all with everything. Plus, it's so cool to have it in front of me instead of on a screen here, which, it's not that far away, but like I can sit on the couch and just like run all of these riffs and everything. So I don't know, it feels good. Highly recommend just jumping in there. And then I saw the Diablo 4 thing, the beta thing is coming out here pretty soon, so I'm going to have to jump on that. That's kind of playing and watching. I have been dabbling a little bit with Triangle Strategy, actually. We're going on vacation next week, and I've got it downloaded on my Switch, and so I think there's a couple of books. Justice for Kings is actually loaded up on my Kindle, or Justice of Kings loaded up on my Kindle, so I'm going to read that. And I've got a couple of like Christian leadership books that I'm going to dabble into, and then Triangle Strategy on the Beach sounds absolutely dope. I am loving the fact that Stray is being talked about as well. Unfortunately, I don't have a PlayStation, but
it's on PC.
It is on PC? Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. I might have to I might have to get into that. So we heard referenced when Templar was talking. He said something to the effect of the fact that Netflix cannot produce anything outside of Stranger Things. And I kind of had a throwaway line a week or two ago on our last roundtable where I had said something about let's talk about the ranking of all of the streaming services. And so we wanted to bring that discussion to you all today. And before we go any further, we got to set a couple of ground rules. So this is video streaming services. This isn't like Xbox Game Pass. This isn't like PS Plus or GameFly or anything like that. This is video only, no Spotify either. Also, you can see here at the top of my really janky list, and if you're listening to this on an audio format, I have pulled up a Google Doc in front of everybody. There is something called the North American services. So these are the primary North American streaming services. There's little ones out there, like no offense to like some weird Fubo TV that is based out of Mexico, and no offense to like Sling, whatever, but these are like the main ones. And we all have ordered lists 5-1. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our ordered lists, or we're going to give our ordered lists, and then we are going to argue a little bit about why we think that's what it is. And then we theoretically are going to create a Lux recommended top 5 streaming services list. And then we're going to trademark it and patent it and sell it to you if we can. We try to make, speaking of microtransactions. So we're going to start actually with Templar. Templar, who streamed about 2 hours of a deliberation process yesterday on his channel, which felt really good. And I loved watching it, and I lurked for about like an hour in there, and I came back and he was still like analyzing this stuff. I think you've done the most meta-analysis on this topic out of anyone I've ever seen. So let's talk about your list. I'm going to manually type these into this dumb Google Doc, and then we're going to go from there. Sound good?
Sure, sounds great.
Cool.
So for me, yes, I did watch it, or I did spend some time live yesterday going over it. And largely the way I'm approaching it is available content on the platform. I'm sure we'll get into some of the actual sort of how well the apps are designed and things like that later. That's not as much about how I looked at it. So I looked at it I looked at all the movies. I looked at all the TV shows that the service offers. I took the top 10, what I would like for me, the 10 that I'm interested in on that, and basically compared them and to say, who has the most content that I would actively watch on their platform, right? So that's the way I approached it. And I'm sure we all had slightly different ways of going about this. But without further ado, so number 5 on my list was Paramount Plus. So Paramount Plus, I don't have it, but I did have it for a month free. I forget how I got a free month of it. And of course, the Halo show was on that we talked about. That was our first episode, I believe. We talked about the Halo show, right? Yep. So I went on there, checked it out, and I got an opportunity to watch some stuff on it. And I was, honestly pleasantly surprised, given that my expectations were essentially nothing for it. So what I'll say, we'll get into more later. I think movie-wise, they're actually pretty strong. They have a lot of pretty solid movies on there. Godfather, Interstellar, Saving Private Ryan, Gladiator, Raiders of the Lost Ark, to name a couple. It was pretty good. Now, the TV on there was incredibly weak, unless you really love Star Trek, because outside of Star Trek, there's not a lot. 1883 was the one Yellowstone prequel that I enjoyed from there. Okay, number 4 on my list, and I know this will end up being a contentious one with where it is. Disney Plus is number 4 on my list.
I'm just glad it's on your list, man. I'm just glad it's on your list.
I'm not contending. 5. There is no contention here.
So again, we'll get into more of it. But in terms of content for me, beyond Pixar and mostly the older Pixar and some of the older animated stuff, there just isn't a lot for me on Disney Plus. Number 3 is Prime Video.
Okay.
So Amazon Prime Video. I enjoy Prime Video. I go to it more than I often expect to, and I often find interesting things on there to watch that aren't always available other places. Number two is Netflix for me. There are some issues with it, and I do have some problems with their original content, but overall, it's still, I think they have a lot of different offerings, and there's enough there to keep me interested. Number one for me is HBO Max.
Cool. I'm sure we'll get into the whys of all of that. I have one question I want to ask you, and I'll save it. Let's go, Nav. Let's go to you. What's your 5-1 right now?
Oh yeah, I will do this. Number 5. Okay, I bounced around a little bit, putting Netflix here, but Netflix does not make my top 5.
Whoa.
Yes, and so
wow, harsh words.
I'm just saying because the only reason I have subscribed to Netflix in the past like 4 months is because of Stranger Things. I'm just letting you know. So based on that, and I've been looking, there's just like really nothing I have it. I'm probably going to cancel it again. There's nothing that interests me right now on there. So anyway, I'm going to watch, I need to watch Cobra Kai before my subscription runs out. I do like Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai and Stranger Things are like the main 2 things on Netflix that I like. Okay. I will subscribe to those things. The movie was it Red Notice with, what's his name?
Ryan Reynolds.
Not Vin Diesel, The Rock, and
was it Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reynolds.
Paul Rudd.
Okay, huh?
Paul Rudd's in everything.
I'm just yelling names of actors.
You're just yelling names. Sorry, my mind. I've had VBS this week. I've had VBS this week. My mind is fried right now. It's the last day, so I am struggling today. Anyway, that was a surprise. That was pleasantly surprised with that movie. Okay, so I thought it was kind of cool. Had a nice little twist at the end. I thought it was cool. But other than that. Yeah, so my number 5, Peacock. Okay, just to let you know, if you like The Office, I love The Office. Some people, I don't know if that's contentious, but I love The Office. They have the super cuts on there, which is basically extended versions of the shows. That is worth it. If you like The Office, that's just worth it to subscribe to go through the season again. And there's a few other shows on there that I like too, but that's the main one. That's just kind of like my comfort food show. So. There you go. Number 4, Disney Plus. Okay. I like Marvel stuff. I'm not going to say much more. Disney Plus. And plus, there's like, I had the Disney Channel kind of growing up for like my teen years. And so there's a lot of like throwback shows that my brothers and I get together. We're like, hey, remember this show? Like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody and stuff like this, if you know. Like, anyway, number 3, believe it or not, Crunchyroll.
Oh my gosh.
Anime. Yes.
I was wondering who would get Crunchyroll on their list.
I had it on my like cut down list up here somewhere. Yeah, Crunchyroll.
Probably mine is higher because I work with students and they're always asking me about it. So I have a good number of students that ask me about anime and stuff. And I do like My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan. There's a few other ones I'm watching on there. Demon Slayer is pretty good too. But so I subscribe to that every now and then just to catch up on what the kids are watching. And plus, I like anime too. And so, favorite anime of all time is Bleach. So just letting you know. There you go. Bleach is my all-time favorite anime. There you go. Number 2, HBO Max. Okay. Was pleasantly surprised. There is actually quite a few good shows on there. I like Titans. That is pretty cool. It's a different type. I thought it was well done. If you I guess it's on Prime Video too. If you ever watch Chuck, it's a comedy. That's pretty cool. But there's some other stuff, movies. That's where I watched Batman when it came out, Dune, all that stuff. So they have some high quality movies on there. Number 1, right now I am watching quite a few shows. Well, I need to get back into it. It's been busy, but I like Apple Plus. Believe it or not, there's a few shows. Ted Lasso is amazing. Yep. If you have not watched Severance.
Yep.
Severance is like is good. Like Severance, if you don't never watch it before, it's a guy who works at a place. When he goes to work, he doesn't remember his outside life, and when he's at home, he doesn't remember his work life. It's kind of like I'm not without spoiling anything, so just go watch the show.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so that's my top 5. So Peacock, Disney Plus, Crunchyroll, HBO Max, and Apple Plus TV.
Cool. Mark, what do you got? 5-1.
Yeah, quick and easy. Netflix is my number 5. They're a horrible company that doesn't deserve your money unless they're putting out new Stranger Things stuff.
Preach.
But when they put out new Stranger Things stuff, or they put out for my wife The Crown, then I will give Netflix a little bit of my money, and I feel bad about it. HBO Max is the next one. I've never actually owned HBO Max. I've never subbed to it, but I have borrowed it before to catch a couple of things from one of my buddies. And honestly, if I watched more TV, HBO Max would make sense. And honestly, my list has a lot to do with season of life. I have little kids, so our TV is dominated by little kids in many ways. And so, there's a lot. The thing about HBO Max is you would think a lot of it is sort of like X-rated or like, like NC-17 or whatever it is. There's some of that in everything, but honestly, that's everywhere at this point. And Netflix is probably worse at it than HBO Max is in some ways. I would say my next one is going to be Peacock, exclusively and only because some of my best friends in the world starred on The Office and Parks and Rec. And so by that, I mean, I don't know them personally at all, but they feel like friends because I've watched every season 4 times in my house. Yep. And the fact that I can't get to them right now hurts me.
Yep.
So there's that.
Have you watched the supercuts yet, Mark? Of The Office?
No, I have not gotten a chance to watch it, but Greg owns it, so I need to borrow it
you need to borrow it and do it. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. Prime Video, because you probably have it already. So because you just get it, right? Don't you just get Prime Video when you get Amazon Prime? So you probably have it already. The best thing about Prime Video is that it comes with free day 2 shipping, 2-day free shipping on all of your stuff. So that's a really great perk of having Prime Video. Other than that, give Jeff Bezos however much money he wants to make me Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yes.
And then it almost got my... Yeah. And I have kids, so my number 1 is Disney Plus because there's no better babysitter, and she's super cheap. She's like $7 a month, and she babysits my kids. And so I'll gladly do that with Disney Plus. Thank you for Encanto. Thank you for Frozen 2 during the pandemic. You tortured me, but you also kept me alive, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Cool. I'm going to go 5-1 real quick. Peacock is my number 5. The Office, Parks and Rec, I cannot say enough. Good Place is going to be bleeding over there. I love The Good Place. But more than that, actually, it's for the English Premier League soccer stuff that happens. They get a lot of spillover into that, and a lot of like the prestige matches, and so that's super good. Plus Yellowstone's on there. Plus, like, and I hate saying this, but like Fresh Prince is really good. Not the new one, the old one, the old one. Yeah, the new one's awful. Obviously. Number 4 is Disney Plus for me. I have my youngest is a 12-year-old, my oldest is an 18-year-old. And Bougie's right. Y'all can borrow my HBO Max. I don't get it for free with my cell phone. I get Netflix or I get the Hulu thing. I'm leaving Hulu off because Hulu's more of a live TV service thing for me than anything. My number 3 is going to be HBO Max. There is a decent amount of shows on there that actually feel real good and their original content. The Watchmen on there was delightfully bad and awesome all at the same time. There's the Flight Attendant was on there. What else? There was a couple other shows on there that was like, ooh, this is really good. Plus the fact that they just have all the movies that just keep premiering there. Number 2 for me is going to be Netflix. As previously stated, Stranger Things. I unfortunately watched The Crown for a little bit, and now I hate it. But I was watching that for a while. Formula One Drive to Survive is really, really, really good. I don't even like racing, and I love watching that show. And there's a couple other little things in there. Not the best in terms of original programming, but they do have a lot of exclusives, things that nobody else has. And obviously the only number 1 is Amazon Prime Video for me, simply because of 2 things. The X-Ray, which is amazing. I love watching with the X-Ray because there's a lot of times my wife and I go like, wait a minute, who is that? And instead of having to, this sounds stupid, instead of having to pick up my phone and do the thing, I just hit pause, click the person, and it takes me right to their IMDb page. Just takes 2 steps out of there, because the second I grab my phone, I'm checking Slack, I'm checking emails, I'm checking Discord, and I'm not watching the show anymore. Plus, the value proposition is all there. $99 a year or whatever it is for Amazon Prime now. We use the snot out of Amazon Prime because we are a family of 5. We always need things. And the fact that I get a video subscription, and the fact that I get Man in the High Castle, and the fact that I get The Boys, and the fact that I get the Jack Reacher stuff, and the fact that I get Preacher, and the fact that I get a number of other series in there. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel's on there. I mean, it's just on and on and on and on and on.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I forgot. Wait, is that not on Netflix?
I have absolutely no idea where that is.
Get out of here with your nonsense here. So I'm going to make these into columns, so hopefully we can see this on one screen. So we kind of have a couple here that we might be able to cut, but I think we need to start with. Maybe I can't do it from here. I think I got to go into the other thing. It's fine.
Start with cutting Apple TV. I agree. So we don't need any of that. They don't have any of the content. There's no reason to get that. Apple doesn't need any more of anyone's money.
I did not know Apple TV was even a service until we got on this today. I didn't know they had a thing.
It's great.
It's only $5 a month.
Yeah, it
No
is.
ads.
It honestly is great. And if you like baseball,
can pay $5 a month for nothing.
Well, now they're getting baseball. They're getting MLS. I debated between putting Apple TV Plus over Peacock as my number 5. Peacock right now has more soccer and more stuff. I love Ted Lasso. I think Ted Lasso is just fantastic. So is Severance. But Templar, you sealed it for me yesterday when you were going through Apple TV Plus, and it was like, man, I like 3 of these shows. I'm not gonna waste an entire pick on 3 shows. So thanks.
I feel like that's how Netflix got on all of our lists, though. Everybody but Nav's list. I feel like Netflix only got on our lists because of 1 or 2 picks.
Yeah,
but
I
got a ton of stuff from Netflix. Breaking Bad is fantastic on Netflix.
Mad Men.
Avatar: The Last Airbender is fantastic on Netflix.
Avatar is good. Yeah.
Arcane, fantastic on Netflix. Peaky Blinders, fantastic. Queen's Gambit is really
yes.
good. The Witcher is a little hit and miss, but I think it's okay. Then there's Legend of Korra, if you're into that. Then there's some smaller shows, like Godless was a Western show on there that's really good. So I don't know. And then, Stranger Things. So to me, Netflix, their original stuff.
He's gone.
I think we lost him there for a second.
No, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with my internet today.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
But outside of Stranger Things, all their original content sucks. And Arcane doesn't count because it wasn't made by them.
Right.
It's just on there.
Well, The Witcher was made by them.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. The Witcher's fine.
I'm not gonna pay $14.99 or whatever it is for my family plan to get The Witcher.
No. It's an okay bonus, though. Yeah, that's fair. And then movies, I think there's a decent amount. I chose a couple: Hell or High Water, Hateful Eight, Wind River,
Anchorman.
7. Sure, if that's your thing.
It is.
Okay, good for you. I'm sorry. It's I just can't with Will Ferrell. I can't. It's not my thing.
That's fine. You can be wrong about certain things.
I am wrong about many things. That's fine. Other than Elf and parts of Step Brothers, I just can't do Will Ferrell.
Okay.
We're gonna do a whole episode on Step Brothers eventually. So
I would love that. All right, so let's start with. I think we should start with either a number 1 or a number 5 and go that order. I personally feel like we should start with a number 5 because I feel like we're going to have an argument for number 1 here.
Well, number 1's just HBO Max, isn't it? Isn't it the highest collectively on all of our lists?
I would no. Well, are we going to take that into perspective? I'm fine putting HBO Max like number 1 or number 2 or number 3.
HBO Max is what? It is a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 between our lists.
So that's like a 2 or a 3. That's a 2.5.
Yeah, but there's nothing else that's going to make that. Because, look at our number 1s. the list, like, so Mark's number 1 is Disney Plus, and that's a 1-4-4-4. So like that's not it. Prime Video is a 1, not even on Nav's list.
Well, he has Crunchyroll on there. I'm not going to trust his list.
Oh.
3 and 2.
I kid. I like Crunchyroll.
HBO Max is and then I mean Nav's number 1 we don't need to talk about. So like, HBO Max is the only one that's a number 1 pick and is on everybody's list, like above 5.
All right, hear me out. Amazon Prime 2, HBO Max 3, Netflix 1.
Why?
Whoa!
It's not even.
Whoa!
Hold on.
Netflix is
no.
not on Nav's list.
Whoa!
I'm just. We got to start the conversation somewhere, boys.
It's 2 on your list.
That's fine.
It's 5 on. It's 5. It's 5 on Mark's list. Like, no.
It doesn't make on Nav's.
Again, I'm not trusting Nav's list.
Well, I mean, that's the show. We gotta I'm giving them.
It was either Crunchyroll or Netflix, and honestly, I've spent more time on Crunchyroll than Netflix. Okay?
No, hey, you do you, buddy. You do you.
I'm glad that anime is represented in here.
Totally.
I don't watch anime, so I don't.
Fine. Yeah.
But like, there's such an enormous amount of the community who does watch anime. That's like, well, they don't like. They would. There's a lot of people who Crunchyroll's number 1, right, above pretty much everything else, probably for them, because that's the only thing they. There are people who just only watch anime, right? They don't really watch anything because there's so much of it. It's not like there's a lack of anime. Like you could do that and watch nothing else without any problem.
Yeah.
Bougie's trying to be too rational here. He says in the chat, "Why not just add up the rankings and see how many points they get?" I don't.
That's not enough fun, Bougie. I'm with you. That's what I'm trying to do here for number 1. But like, it's more fun to argue about it. So like,
all right, let's start with number 5.
I'm okay
number
with
5 is number 5 is what, Peacock then?
I think Peacock is number 5.
Peacock or Amazon Prime, honestly, one of those.
It's number 1, 2, 3 on our list. come on, Nav.
Get rid of Amazon Prime.
It's just because everyone gets it for shipping. Okay, come on.
Hey man, value is value. That's part of this whole discussion.
Doesn't make it bad.
Nav's a loyal brick and mortar guy. He's like I'm not trying to get Amazon up too high.
GameStop or bust.
Shop local business, people.
Yeah.
Shop local business. I think I can agree with that. I think it does look like Peacock is 5. It is a solid 5.
Blocker J was saying something was happening with Twitch. I would happen to agree. I don't think it's my network, because if it was my network, everybody would have been gone, and instead everybody's here. So
we don't need that logic right now.
Yeah, I'm lying about it.
Bougie, if you'd like a refund, I'll message you. You just need to send me $150, and then I can process your refund for you.
Right, and your bank account information.
Yeah,
Social Security card
it's number. A shipping and handling thing. Okay, let's blow through these because we got to talk about other stuff if we have time. Number 4 is I'm going to put Disney Plus, unless Mark, you want to fight us over that.
No, Disney. It's stage of life. Disney Plus puts out new material, but it's best if you have kids. If you're not going to make use of like Disney princess shows and stuff, the only other thing I'll say about Disney Plus is they have a lot of great documentaries. They have a lot of great documentaries.
That is true.
If you're a documentary person.
We're not. So number 4.
We're Disney not documentary Plus. People around here.
No, I like a good documentary, just not to bump it to number 3, because these are the hotly contested ones here. So I think these 3 here are between HBO Max, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the top 3. We just need to figure out the order.
I'm fine putting. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I think Amazon Prime. I think Amazon Prime is a number 3.
I don't know. It's 1, 2, 3 on the list. I think it's Netflix. Like, based on where it is on our list, I think it, and the fact that it's not even on Nav's list, to me, 3 has to be Netflix. 3 has to be Netflix.
I would agree with that.
I'm messing everything up.
Neither Netflix, neither of them are on Nav's list. He doesn't have either of them on Nav's. So, but yeah, okay.
Okay, if I was going to switch, I would have Amazon Prime as number.
That's true. So Amazon Prime, Yeah, Amazon Prime
Amaz-
should be higher though, because Amazon Prime
Yeah.
is 1, 2, 3. Netflix is 2, 5, 2.
I would have Amazon Prime number 3 if it wasn't for Crunchyroll right now. So I think it should be at least Amazon
Wait,
Prime. Should definitely
number 3. Wouldn't you just
I
have
would
it at
switch
4
out.
then?
No. I would if you would for argument's sake, if I would switch out Crunchyroll for Amazon Prime if I wasn't using Crunchyroll a lot right now. So
Hear me out.
Okay.
Netflix,
Okay.
Amazon Prime Video, HBO Max.
HBO Max is number 1.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
gotta
So
be.
in 3, 2, 1 order.
Yeah.
Oh, in 3, 2, 1 order.
Yeah.
Netflix,
I did
Amazon
my fingers the
Prime.
wrong way. Sorry about that.
Oh, Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max. Yeah.
Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, and then we all hug and say we love each other.
yes.
I mean, I don't agree to the second part, but sure, the first part's fine.
The loving each other or the hugging part?
No, I agree to the list. Both of those other things at the end, I'm good without that. But the list part's fine.
I love you. Here we go. We're gonna
Love you too, Gino.
we're gonna go Netflix, Amazon Prime, Vidya. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and we'll give the full list here in just a second. HBO Max. Anything for anything more here?
Well, I guess
Okay, go ahead, Templar. Sorry.
No, sorry, Nav. I've cut you off a bunch today. You go.
No. I was just saying, just for people with HBO Max, there's actually a surprisingly decent amount of kids stuff on there.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
there's a whole kids section and everything. I have family that came up
guess-
and their kids love Sonic, and Sonic was on there, like the cartoon, and there's other cartoons on there. So
Yeah.
there's actually
Would the
decent.
Are the Looney Tunes on there?
They are.
would be,
I think so.
Yeah, they are.
assume, right?
And Tiny Toons. Tiny Toons is on there too.
Sure, because it's Warner Brothers stuff, right?
Yep.
Well, so like we didn't really talk about went through. I mean, for HBO Max, for me, it was just kind of the quality of the content. I mean, for me, I'm a big Christopher Nolan guy, and he's a Warner Brothers director, so pretty much all of his stuff is on there. Then they have like things like The Matrix, Goodfellas, stuff like that. And then, I mean, to me, in terms of TV, it's hard to beat HBO. Like, the first few seasons of Game of Thrones, Chernobyl is fantastic. Band of Brothers is fantastic. The Wire, Sopranos, Batman the Animated Series, like Peacemaker, classic, like timeless series. So it's there's just lots of good content on there. So now it's not maybe the most. It's more stuff that maybe if you never watched, you would go back for. Then maybe I'm not sure about their new content, but in terms of just overall quality, hard to beat.
I'm fine with all this. I was going to bring UI elements into all this crap because HBO Max has like the most basic out of all of them. Amazon Prime has the X-ray feature. Netflix is the only one out of all of these that actually reliably remembers when you resume, which is a huge thing for me because I go between laptop, phone, iPad, into another computer, into my one of my TVs. So there's like I can pick up any show that I'm watching within 10 seconds of where I left off, which is none of the others reliably do that. Peacock is one of the worst streaming services in the world for just taking content out of it. You cannot find what you were just watching. Like there is no resume anything. There's no, like I would expect, I open up the app and just below, fine. You want to give me the fold? You want to give me like the 14 new shows that are screaming in carousel? Perfectly fine. You do you, man. We got to surface new shows somewhere. I would expect under that to find resume watching the last series or the last movie or the last something. And instead, I have to go to the search and type in THE space OF before it says, oh, you're watching The Office? Oh, okay, cool. You want to go to The Office? And then it doesn't actually even remember which episode I was watching, which is fine. Like, I love The Office, but
Awful.
don't give me all that. Don't give me all that.
That's awful.
Yeah. Hey, Pastor Savage 85 popping in here with a raid. Thank you so much for the raid.
Hey.
Let's go. Welcome in. Welcome in. We are
Welcome,
yelling
everyone.
about streaming services, and we're going to talk some Christian stuff in a minute. What's up, Pastor Savage 85? Holden's in the chat. Warrior Light. Dr. Doom. Love the name. Sideways. Everybody, welcome into the chat. Party of 17 coming on in. Yeah, so we're all good with this list. Everybody, 5-1, Peacock, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max. Everybody good? Thumbs up?
Good.
That's the list. That's
awesome,
the list for today.
Awesome. Everybody else in the chat as well, we'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear what your top streaming service is. If you want to give us a 5-1 list, that's cool. These are the Lux recommended streaming lists. Boys, do we think we have time to go through our topic, or do we want to head out right now? You tell me.
We just got a raid, bro.
Let's go. Cool. Why didn't Hulu make the list? Because Hulu is trash, and frankly,
Original content.
Yeah, there is no original content. It's basically just an NBC knockoff. It's the same reason, Booge, that I didn't put YouTube TV on there. YouTube TV technically trumps all of these because you get unlimited cloud DVR service. Yeah, no, hey, Crunchyroll was on there.
I was the Crunchyroll representative. Okay, I was.
He was, and Jen brings up a good point in the chat. Hulu is impossible to navigate. It's the same thing that Peacock has, where it is impossible to navigate. Apple TV, it was on there. Was on there. Nav was the holdout.
It was on
number one.
Yeah,
it was on one of the lists.
Yeah,
it was on. I am the only one for people stand behind me. Okay,
I stood behind you, and then I struck it from my
I didn't even know it
list.
existed.
Yeah, I Ted Lasso and I one of my coffee mugs has Ted Lasso on it with him telling me to take the tea back because it tastes like burnt water or burnt leaves or something. So yes, love Ted Lasso. The rest of it is fine. The Severance too. Okay, so we're gonna move into our topic then today. We're gonna dial back the funny and dial up the serious just a little bit. We as Christians often get asked when let me rephrase this. We often have a tough time knowing and understanding what we should and should not watch, what we should and should not listen to, and sometimes we get asked in the church world, okay, well, what can I? Is it okay for me to watch rated R movies? Is it okay for me to listen to explicit music? What's the line that I have to draw? And we wanted to have a very frank discussion about this because a lot of the stuff that we even just talked about is would not be safe around your children. Like Severance would not be safe. Well, Severance might be, but some of the stuff on HBO Max I would not watch with my children, and yet I'm fine sitting there and watching it with my wife. So what would Jesus do? Says Warrior of Light. Yes. So I wanted to open the discussion up, and just kind of throw out that question: where's the line? How do we know what we should and should not watch, should and should not listen to? Is it okay to listen to explicit music? Is it okay to watch rated R movies? What do we do about all that? And how do we as Christians speak into that belief and that culture? Don't everybody talk at once.
Yes. The silence.
No, I think it's a great conversation because a lot of us are wondering, and then how do you navigate that? And obviously, each one of us are probably going to draw that line at a slightly different place. And I'd like to know where y'all draw that line at a little bit. But it's important to have I had a pastor who, not my last pastor, the college pastor, he's a huge Game of Thrones fan, and so he uses Game of Thrones in a sermon illustration once, and it's an older country church, and so this 70-year-old woman, under the guidance of her pastor, goes home and watches episode 1 of Game of Thrones because he incorporated it into his sermon, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what is our pastor watching on the internet?" Right? And so, so it just sort of depends on where you are. For me, because of my personal issues, right? Nudity is a problem for me. So I don't really watch anything that has nudity in it personally. Whether or not I would say that's wrong of anybody to do, I don't know. I would say I think it obviously there's a difference between shows like there's not a huge difference between shows like Game of Thrones and straight up X-rated content. So maybe that's a bad analogy to make, at least not see episode 1, which is like the only thing that I've seen. But you know, like there is a big difference between a lot of sort of like R-rated content and X-rated content, and there is a significant difference as well, because there's some R-rated content that isn't necessarily bad, but the worldviews that are projected in some PG-13 content are significantly worse than what you're going to see in some R-rated content that maybe, you know, has some shooting scenes or like, I don't know, who's that guy whose daughter always gets stolen and then he kills a country to get her back. What's that movie? I've never seen it. Taken. That's it. Yeah. That's the one. So I don't know. Like my initial thought is like, it's kind of a personal thing, but I am curious to know kind of like where do each of you guys land and like what content do you view to be appropriate or inappropriate for you to watch as a follower of Jesus?
I'll jump in this. I think the first R-rated movie I ever saw was The Patriot. And so with Mel Gibson and stuff, and that what was it, Templar?
I just said the Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah. Was like The Patriot. I think that was like the first, and that's mainly just because of the violence. And I think that's like, I mean, there's some pretty violent scenes in there and stuff like that. But it was like, I like the movie. Like my thing is like, I don't go looking to watch R-rated movies or anything like that. I'm just kind of like, you know, it depends. I guess what I enjoy watching is not stuff like that, I guess I should put in it. So it kind of like goes on like what I'm trying to put in the words here because you have to be careful with this. But yeah, so but like with R-rated stuff and everything, a lot of times like I don't go looking for R-rated. I'm like, oh yeah, it's an R-rated movie. I'm gonna go watch this, whatever. I usually, if I do go see an R-rated movie, I kind of review it. Like, why is it R-rated? Is it because of, is there violence? Because sometimes there's like war movies. It's usually done because of violence, you know, stuff like that, and everything else. But if it's rated R for sexual content, then I'm just like, not my thing. I'm not going to do that, you know. Like, and then so it depends on what that is for. But like most of my content I consume is far from R-rated, and that's just like a preference thing that I like and stuff, because you know the Bible does talk about we have to guard ourselves, guard our eyes, be careful with what we watch, be careful what we take in, because it does affect us mentally. And but we all know what our weaknesses are too, and everything. So we have to guard ourselves with that too. So it's kind of like, okay, I know I struggle with if I view this, or I struggle with if I view this, then you should do research and just make sure like, hey, what I'm about to watch doesn't have this stuff in it, or something like that.
And there's
just be informed.
Well, I was going to say there is a plethora of websites out there. I have on my other screen. What is it? Plugged In? No. What's the main one? The main sort of faith-based. My goodness.
Focus on the Family.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is.
Is it Focus on the Family? Yeah, Templar, you talking?
Family probably has one.
I don't know. This is a tough one for me. My experience is different. I mean, I probably watched Predator when I was like 6 or 7. Like my dad kind of brought me up on like 80s action movies and stuff. So, you know, those were, I think, all R-rated. And I don't feel like I'm any worse off for it. Similar to Mark, I am careful with like sexual content because I know that stuff is not wise for me to be viewing. So like I'm cognizant of that. And so typically if I'm recommending something, I'm always, you know, if I watch something that has that in it, if it's minor enough that I'm still willing to keep watching it, I always tell people that they should, you know, be aware of that if that is something that's sort of a trigger for some issues that they might have. And then beyond that, I feel like it's sort of a personal thing, right? Like as it comes to many sort of Christian issues, like there are many Christians who completely avoid alcohol. I'm not one of them because I know for me, alcohol isn't a problem. But for some people it is, so they avoid it entirely. And I view it in somewhat of a similar way. Is it something that's going to bring up an issue in you, or it's going to cause you to stumble in some way, then you should know yourself well enough to avoid it. My opinion on terms of just blanket, should Christians, like, can Christians watch R-rated content? I mean, for me, I think yes, with some qualifications on it, that there is certain types of R-rated content I personally would avoid. Because I know it's a problem for me, and I don't want to stumble because of what I'm watching. But if something is R-rated, like Saving Private Ryan is R-rated,
Yep.
Because of significant violence, I don't have an issue watching that, and I don't have a problem recommending someone watch it. Although, I would probably warn them about the gore and that sort of thing in it. And then when it comes to music, I don't know. It's a kind of a tough one, because I don't know if, like, again, I mean, very explicit sexual language could be an issue for you, and then you might want to avoid that. Beyond that, I mean, much of at least certain types of music, especially say hip hop, contains themes and sort of messaging that, even if it is speaking about people's life experience, I think can be detrimental potentially. But I don't think Christians need to only listen to specifically Christian music,
Great.
like labeled as such Christian music. I think you can, again, use your own judgment to be aware of what you're consuming. For me, I listen to K-pop, which we've joked about a fair bit, but in terms of content, it's pretty mild. Like, there's really not much in terms of the messaging that's problematic at all, and that's largely a cultural thing from Korea. Beyond that, I listen to a lot of country, which has a lot of overlap with a lot of Christian artists anyway. So there's, it tends to be pretty mild. And then when I branch out of that into something like hip hop, I tend to go towards someone like NF, say, who, even though he's a Christian, I don't think he really labels himself or labels his music as Christian music, but he himself is a Christian. And then I think, so I guess to sum up, it's just, I don't think there needs to be blanket statements of like, no, you shouldn't watch something because it has a specific rating, but you need to be aware of what your issues are, what are the things you struggle with, and what's going to cause you to stumble.
Yeah. So, Jen, your wife has just blown it up. Actually, she said something earlier about Schindler's List that I was actually going to bring up too. There are certain things that are depicted in rated R movies that I don't think it needs to be put on there, but it's important to know things like Saving Private Ryan, my all-time favorite movie. Like, that's something that people should at least be cognizant of, because of the horrors and evils of war. And like, that's what the whole movie is documenting. It's like an anti-war stance. It's not glorifying it in any stretch. Same with Schindler's List. Like, there's a whole long list of things there that I think it's important for people to understand. I'm not, and you just don't want to go to this, the like a 50 Shades of Grey type thing, like just gratuitous sex and all this other stuff. Like, that's, what's up, Josh? Good to see you, man. It's not this thing that, there's a line there, and I want to get to the line in just a second, but I was a worship pastor for about 12 years. And so I've been a musician my entire life. My brother and sister are musicians. My parents are musicians. Like, we are a musical family. And I remember when I first became a believer, I actually got super depressed not because like Jesus hadn't wrecked my soul and all that other stuff, but because all of this music I was listening to, all of this music that I had grown up on, funk, metal, soul, R&B, like this like 70s and 80s music, like, good, awesome music, hip hop, things like that. I all of a sudden was like, oh man, I got to give this up. And then I did the whole sort of like, went to my friends or went to the Christian bookstores, like, well, I like thrash metal, so what is a Christian Project 86 is thrash, huh? And then I would listen to them and then, like, this sucks. And you find some good alternatives and stuff, but I, in my own faith, started to develop this thing of, okay, I know where the line is for me. Like, I know where the line is, like, okay, this is too much. I shouldn't be doing this. This is enticing, and this is inserting evil thoughts, even with music or with movies and things. So my question to you guys is, where's that line for you? Have you established in your heart outside of like, all right, this is, this is nudity? Like, is there other defining factors for you guys, or is it just kind of a feeling that you get in your gut?
Well, for me, with you,
Nav, go ahead. You talk because I have to formulate my thought.
okay. I was saying, well, for music, I was kind of like the total opposite of you, Gino. I was not allowed to listen to anything with drums in it.
What?
Yes, yes. Like,
not even DC Talk.
No, like, oh no, like CCM was of the devil.
What? I mean, it's bad, but like, why?
No, it was just like, oh man, do I have to? We'll have to talk because there's a whole thing with it, like where drum beats came from. They came from like Africa for Satan worship. I mean, like there was like stuff like I was like partially. I'm not. I don't think that anymore. Okay, like I just didn't know better. It was just a circle. I mean, like my religious upbringing was borderline cultish, and so
no Striper then. So there's Warrior of Light. Yeah, Calculus. What's up, man? Good to see you.
Yeah. So anyway, so it was like no drums. Like I only listen to like classic. I didn't listen to music growing up because my music options was classical music and hymnal music.
There's drums. There's drums in classical music. They're called timpanis.
And so no, that's orchestra. That's like orchestra. Like that's percussion. Percussion. So that's not drums. I know. I'm just saying. And so it wasn't until basically around college people started challenging my thought because you grew up with this and you're just like you kind of regurgitate it. And it wasn't until my friend got me into casting crowns and stuff like that. And then other friends were challenging me like, okay, why in scripture do you follow this and stuff like that? I'm like, I have no clue why. Then I started searching. I'm like, okay, this is a bunch of, okay. But anyway, that was kind of this, but it was just interesting that was my upbringing. So it was just interesting. I'll have to tell you, we'll talk later, Chino. I have more.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions. Because I a lot of questions.
I have long hair now. I play the bass guitar. My brother plays drums and keyboard. We're different now.
Real rebellious. I like that.
I want to chime in because Warrior Light brought up a scripture which I thought was helpful. In Romans 14, verse 13, it says, "Therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of your brother or sister. I am convinced, being fully persuaded in the Lord Jesus, that nothing is unclean in and of itself. If anyone regards something as unclean for them, that person it's unclean. If your brother or sister is distressed because of what they eat, you are no longer acting in love. Do not by your eating destroy someone for whom Christ died." So it continues, but this is a really interesting passage because it's this pairing of like the reason why we should be really careful with the content that we read or what we should support, and at the same time it's freedom to watch in some ways. Like, so this is the scripture that is sort of the premise, the theological discussion around Christian liberty comes, which is like, okay, yeah, there are things that Christ is really clear on and the Bible's clear on, and there are things that he's not. And typically music. So like I have my two things are this. It's like, I don't even understand why we have Christian music. Like, why do Christians have to hijack everything else in culture and make their own version of it so then Christians can go live in a bubble by themselves with their own movies and their own music and their own t-shirts. And then we don't have to interact with the rest of the world that we're sent to save who's bound for hell. So like, I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I don't even listen to Christian music. I actually feel weird listening to Christian music if I'm not worshiping, because why would you listen to worship music and not worship? Are you worshiping yourself? Like what's happening there? So I know that for some people, that's not the case. For me, that's my struggle. The other thing is, I don't understand why we allow what is appropriate or inappropriate for us to watch, to read, to listen to be determined by a rating from a completely secular group of people, right? A whole group of people who have zero care whatsoever for what the Bible says or what it teaches, but yet we are allowing our decisions to be rock solid decided. You can't watch rated R movies. You can't watch this type of music. You can't listen to this type of music. And it's like, well, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that the people who rated movies also were in canon of scripture. So I didn't see those two things going together. So for me, it's like, let's use our brains, right? One of the biggest criticisms against the church is that we don't think sometimes, because we just take like rules and we just flatly oppress them on people. And for me, it's like, let's use our brains. Let's think, is there content in some rated R stuff that I shouldn't watch? There absolutely is. Is there content in some PG-13 stuff that I don't want to have part of my life? There absolutely is. Is there some content that I shouldn't watch that, like, there's some content that I don't want to watch, but I should watch because it allows me to understand the way our culture is going and the way our world thinks as a minister to the world, and you are a missionary to your world? Yeah, like there's actually some stuff that I actually felt a little convicted that I did not watch what was a Squid Games or whatever because it was so hot. Luckily, it was only hot for like 40 seconds. Then everyone quit talking about it. Yeah. But like, I know it was violent. I know it was bloody. I'm not genuinely interested in it. At the same time, it was really hot in culture. And I was like, I should understand why it is that people who aren't following Jesus are so immediately drawn in and entranced by this show. What is it? What is it that's in our hearts? What's the cry from us as humanity in this particular season culturally that's drawing us into that? I know Trombone, like she probably posted like a big, awesome thing here. And so I think that I want us more than anything else. Like I want to have these conversations and I want us as the church to be thoughtful about what it is that we consume, right? Let's not just say, hey, if it has drums, you're not allowed to listen to it. More specifically, if it has a drum set, you're not allowed to listen to it. But if it has percussion instruments, it's fine, right? Triangles are cool, but not drum kits. Like, let's have, and I'm not trying to rag on Navs growing up. Like, I had friends who weren't allowed to watch Sandlot growing up. Like, I get it, right? And I didn't have an extremely sheltered life, but I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons. Like, there was lots of things that weren't allowed to be part of my life as a kid. So I totally get that. And I get trying to protect your children because like I'm doing that now. Like even when I let my kids like Give a Mouse a Cookie has some really progressive themes in it.
Yeah.
And I'm really careful with letting my kids watch Give a Mouse a Cookie. Why? Because what we should be more cautious of is less about visual content and more about worldview that's being impressed upon people and the message that thing is giving. But we have to be able to think critically about it and actually engage with it in a healthy way. And so, it's just the perfect example. It's like, yeah, there's actually some points where I think Simpsons might be healthier for my kids than some of Give a Mouse a Cookie episodes. And so, and I don't know. I really think it's important that we have these conversations and that we're talking about it. We're thinking critically about it. And we're not just using blanket statements and pasting it on stuff because the rest of the world looks at that and says, that doesn't even make any sense. And so we shouldn't have cop-outs like that either as Christians.
What do you say to and this is for all you guys out there, what do you say to the idea that, Paul, when he was going to preach on top of Mars Hill, he had to be, this is the Apostle Paul, when he approached the entire sort of Greek civilization and all these people that were worshiping gods all over the place, Paul actually had to be knowledgeable about those gods. What do you say to that argument? Like, okay, well, are you just trying to learn the culture, or is this like itching ears and itching eyes type thing? Like, because I've heard that fly back at me when I have that same type of thing.
Well, working with students, I have to kind of stay up on what's popular and what teenagers are into listening to. The new sayings, slang words, all that, it changes like yearly. It's crazy. Bet. And so
I can't believe kids are using bet right now. Like, oh, my 16-year-old said that. Like, bet, I'll be there. It's like, first of all, that's not what bet is. Just
exactly. Bet. And so you're like, hear these words and you're like, okay, I just, sometimes on my phone, I just make a list and like put their meaning. I'm like, okay, these are going to come back. I'm like,
it's so old.
And so that's what I feel like. I'm like, oh man, I'm only in my 30s. And I'm just like, some of them I'm just like, I have to remember that one. But anyway, so it's just like knowing the stuff they're into, like what music they're into, like TikTok. I'm on TikTok because I have students that are on TikTok and it's just kind of like, I have to know, I don't want to be on TikTok. Okay. But I have people that are, oh man, Trombone.
Trombone says bet ain't new though. Well, I'm old. Leave me alone.
Anyway, so it's just like knowing this stuff, but it's not so much like I have quotations itching ears. It's just like being knowledgeable so I can actually have a discussion with them whether those things are what they should be listening to or not listening to, or what they should be watching or not watching, or like, hey, what are you learning from that show? Sometimes I ask questions like that. What's the theme of the show? Just to kind of like to ask things like that, just to kind of turn around and point them to Jesus, and you can do things like that. But anyway,
Totally. Templar, anything before we start turning the ship here and wrapping up?
No, I think I said my perspective on it. I think you guys covered
Cool.
other points and interesting things.
Cool.
It's been a good discussion in the chat and that as well. So
Yeah, I have
No.
appreciated what the chat has been bringing to this. I appreciate everyone's thoughts out there into everything. If you are not part of our Discord, let's hit up the ! Discord. We would love to continue this conversation. Bet and yeet are in my daily vocabulary. That's about the least surprising thing I've heard all day, Josh.
you
Thanks
should
for
watch.
that.
There's a show on YouTube, Eat It or Yeet It.
What?
Eat it
I do
or
think-
yeet it. It's like a food show. It's like a food. You think it's funny, Mark?
I think Eat It is funny. I do. I kind of like that saying.
I don't understand.
Okay.
I feel like old man shouts at cloud right now as I'm like as my daughter will text me things, and it's funny. She's an adaptive personality, meaning like she's very smart, and so she knows who she's talking to, and she adapts her vocabulary to me. And so with me, she'll use proper punctuation and capitalization, but then when I see her text her friends, it's just like lots of R's and lots of like weird emojis that don't make any sense in context, that I'm sure, like, I've asked her about it too. She'll say yeet, she'll say bet, she'll say just the dumbest like things, and I'm like, Grace, where did that come from? And she just, I don't know, my friends are doing it, so oh, okay. I feel I'll lay down in bed at night and just talk to my wife and be like, are we old? Like, I'm 38. Like, am I that old?
Do you need me to explain to you what it means when she calls you a boomer? Because it's not a compliment, Chino.
Tell me.
I want to make sure you know that.
Tell me, because I
it
thought
means you're aging.
I
Yeah.
thought that meant like she thought I was an Australian thing that she could throw in the air, and I always came back. Like, I'm faithful to her, and I'm always coming back.
No, I don't think that's what it was.
Technically, I'm a millennial, so take that. I'm not even close to being old. Thank you, Warrior of Light. Listen, I'm gonna put that one up on the screen because I appreciate that. I hit
That's
yes.
what
and,
that's what I say every
Okay,
time I pull my
boomer.
skinny jeans on in the morning.
Yep.
So
Okay, Boomer. And then Booge did hit me with the okay, Boomer the other day, and I felt real good about it. Thank you. Hey, everybody, we gotta sign off at some point. Thanks everybody for tuning into the roundtable. This has been good. I appreciate you for the lift, for Templar, for Nav, for which cat is that, Templar?
This is Pumpkin.
For Pumpkin. How much, like give or take 3 pounds? How much does Pumpkin weigh? North of 25
24.
pounds?
24 pounds.
Okay, that was close. That's great.
it's a
How
big cat.
how old is Pumpkin?
He's 9 years old this year.
Aww. Does he have front claws still?
He does. All of our cats have their claws.
Cool. Good. Thanks for not doing that to them. Awesome. We love you guys. Thanks so much for being part of the show today. Remember, jump into the Discord. We want you to be part of the Lux Digital Church family. We would love to continue to talk calculus, trombone, Josh, Bougie, everybody. Jen is here for Pumpkin. Awesome. We love you guys. Thanks so much for being here. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.